What was it like having Ferrari blow up? It was a relief because I made Ferrari 3 years before it came out, and I always knew that it was amazing. And when you know you really, really believe in something and then the world agrees with you, it feels amazing because it's like the whole world saying, yeah, you were right. It also reassures you that you do know what good music is because we're all just guessing, aren't we? But the effects after Ferrari are not felt for a very long time. Like, I remember when Ferrari first blew up, it was literally the biggest record in so many countries. We went to Tomorrowland, and Ferrari was #1 in Belgium on the day when I played Tomorrowland. And I played at 2 p.m. And I was like, because that's a shit set time, you know? And it's not anybody's fault because they book these festivals a long time in advance. And when they booked me for that festival, I didn't have a global smash hit, Ferrari. Advice to new DJs on how to best make the shift from DJ to producer. This is an important one because if you want to be an artist and you want to be playing on big stages, you have to become a producer. I feel like if you love music, this will come naturally to you. It definitely came naturally to me. I found that when I was DJing and when I was playing records, I wanted to make changes to them. And I wanted records to exist that didn't exist. And that's exactly how I started producing. I started making mashups. I started putting one vocal with another track. I started adding some drums into the build-up, making the breakdown longer. Making mashups is essentially how I started producing. And through that, I learnt Ableton. Once you start adding in extra pieces to a record that already exists, you're not that far off making your own record. So that is the fastest way to get into it. How long did it take you to make a track that you were proud of? Honestly, I think any producer can relate to this. You're proud of pretty much anything you've ever made to an extent. Even the earliest music I ever made, it was definitely really bad, but I was definitely really proud of it until I re-listened and thought that it was terrible. I think it probably took me a couple of years until I made something that I was proud of, that I was still proud of the next day. What period of time do you see as prime James hype, or do you think it is still to come? Honestly, I think I evolve every day. Because I make my own music, I learn more and more skills every day when I'm in the studio, and there's stuff that I'm doing today that I couldn't have done a year ago. So I feel like I will always keep one up in myself. So the prime hasn't arrived yet. The prime is coming. It's definitely coming, but we're not there yet. What is the story behind the James Hype Bitch sample? I've never told this story properly. The year was a long time ago, maybe about 2012, and Britney Spears had that song that said, Will.i.am and Britney Bitch. And I used to be an open format DJ who played all music. And one of the biggest tunes in the world was this song that went, it's Will.i.am and Britney Bitch. And I just wanted someone to say James Hype Bitch so that I could replace Britney Bitch with James Hype Bitch. And for some reason, there was this guy that I knew who was a student at one of the events that I played at. I was kind of mates with him and I paid him $30. And I was like, I just want to record you saying some stuff because he had a cool voice. I think he was from London. And I was like, yeah, you got a London voice. You sound really cool. Can you just say James Hype Bitch? And he said a couple of other things for me. The guy's called Ricky Ferrari, which is completely unrelated to the fact that my biggest record's called Ferrari. Anyway, shout out Ricky Ferrari because he made James Hype Bitch and he never ever knew that it was going to be what it is today. What is the best way to find your own sound as a producer? All right, the best way to find your own sound as a producer is to not fucking listen to anyone else who's doing what you're doing. The ingredients that make my house music, don't come from house music. They come from all of the other genres that I've consumed during my life. When I was in school, I used to listen to drum and bass. I've listened to so much hip hop in my life. I used to love dubstep. I listened to music from the 80s. I listened to R&B. And that's where the flavors in my sound come from that make my music clearly sound like my music. And over time, you'll find that you refine those sounds until they become your sound. Even if you go back to listening to records that I produced in 2015, you'll still hear there are things in there that make it sound like a James Hype record. They've never gone away. They've just become more refined. And I don't have to try and do that. That just happens. So learn the basics of production and then you'll find there are things that you're naturally drawn to and don't fight it. Are there times during shows or gigs where you don't have the energy to give 100% and how do you fight it? All right, so there definitely are. You guys watch Moving Differently, so you've seen we can do the craziest touring schedules sometimes and do huge shows without even going going to bed. Now, sometimes you'll get a crowd or a venue that's so crazy, it doesn't matter how little sleep you've had, it just wakes you up and you're like, yeah, I've got the adrenaline, I'm ready to go. But other times that doesn't work. And I've actually had times when I've been on certain tours where I've just felt exhausted. And I remember there was one point I was on tour in India. We did like 4 shows in 4 days and the time zone had really screwed me up. I remember at one show I was like putting my hand in the air and I was like, this is hard. Why is it hard to put my hand in the air? This I'm not right. So sometimes I do have to fight it, and obviously that's not ideal, but there's a lot to be said for pretending that you feel great and then you actually end up feeling great. It's like someone says, if you smile, you end up happy. Kind of works. Ben's doing it as well. What was your first controller? I'm actually so old that I didn't have a controller. I had a pair of vinyl decks and they were called the Newmark Battle Pack. I asked my mum and dad to get me it off eBay secondhand for my 15th birthday. And honestly, I didn't know anyone else who was a DJ. I'd just seen DJs in like music videos and I was like, that looks cool. I'm going to do that. How can a beginner DJ get a foot in the door at a club without being pushy or annoying? I'm going to be honest, you have to be a bit pushy and annoying. I'm British. And I don't know where you're from, Cutline Crisley. But being British, we don't like putting ourselves out there. And there are other cultures around the world. Like, I find that Americans put themselves out there way more than Brits. And I think that's a really positive thing. So I think you just need to be upfront and honest. And if you're going to the club on a Saturday night and you want to get to know the DJ, then go in there at 10:30. Don't be really drunk. Try and chat to the DJ before he or she is really busy. Don't be a know-it-all. Offer compliments. Maybe ask for advice. People are flattered when you ask them for advice. And the key is to build rapport with these people, and hopefully they'll get to know you as someone who's not pushy or annoying. And through the process of building this rapport, they're going to get to know that you're a DJ. And then if any opportunity is to present itself in that club, hopefully you're in their mind to play the opening set, the closing set, or whatever. At what point did it actually start to feel like you had made it? This summer, for the first time, I've been headlining a few festivals, and I've never done that before. Like proper full-size festivals with me headlining. There's always someone at the festival who's bigger, who gets all of the dressing rooms, who gets all of the drivers, who gets all of the extra production on the stage. But this year, that's actually me. Not everywhere, but at some of these shows. And that's a really crazy feeling, because that's like, oh wow, I'm actually like the biggest guy. And that's something I've never felt before. I've been doing these festivals for a while. I probably did my first festival in 2017. So I've been to a lot of these festivals and I got very used to not being the biggest guy at the festival. So when you are the biggest guy at the festival, it really kind of strikes you as like, oh wow, I'm that guy today. So I think that's probably a made it moment for me. There's a lot of moments in my life that other people would probably think like, oh yeah, you must feel like you've made it. But I think as humans, we have a tendency to always focus on the next thing as opposed to really appreciating the thing that's happening right now. Like the fact that we're sat here in Ibiza and I have a residency at the best club in the actual world and I have my face on 2 billboards across the island. But like, and I'm not saying that to flex, I'm saying it to remind myself, made it. What's more important for your legacy, being a groundbreaking DJ or producing bangers like Wild? Oh no, this is hard. This is really hard. I was going to say producing bangers is more important because I think that people will listen to music for a long time in the future, like we still listen to the Beatles today. But then when it comes to the DJ side of it, there's a lot of people out there who produce bangers, but there's not a lot of people out there who DJ in the way that I DJ. So maybe just for the scarcity factor, DJing is more important for my legacy. This is really helpful, like self-therapy, thank you. Do you use the same laptop for Rekordbox and producing, and what are the specs of your producing laptop? Yes, I do use the same laptop. Only recently I was using 2 because I transferred over and it's really scary. It's like moving house when you get a new laptop. The current Mac spec, Apple M3 Max, 64 gig RAM. I can't find the processor, but 4 terabyte hard drive. It's got a pretty good processor. I paid quite a lot of money for it because it's literally my whole life. And the amount of time I spend in front of this laptop, honestly, I would just recommend spending as much as you possibly can afford on one. The other thing with these, they last ages. If you were to buy a cheap laptop, it would probably last you a year, but one of these can last you like 5 years. So I think it's an investment and people complain about the price, but honestly, I think it's worth every penny. Are there any tips or tricks you have for mindset, staying positive, overcoming overthinking when it comes to releasing music and presenting yourself? The ultimate tip or trick is no one gives a fuck. No one gives a fuck about anything really, apart from themselves. So you might be thinking, oh, this person thinks I'm shit, whatever, but they don't give a shit. So just put yourself out there, be wild, release as much music as you can. Even if no one likes it, it doesn't matter. They're not going to remember. They'll remember when you make Ferrari. but they won't remember all the shit that no one liked. They'll remember when you go viral, but they won't remember all the 3,000 times that you tried and failed. Staying positive. I get to do what I love every day, and I actually get paid for it. So I used to do it for free, and I probably still would. So it's hard not to be positive. Just don't get too sucked into all the comparison and competitiveness. It's hard because it's sort of human nature to be like that, but it actually doesn't really matter. Like, what actually makes you happy is what matters, and sometimes you can get sucked into being the biggest, best, whatever, and that might actually not be what makes you happy. So remember that. When are you going to release 7 Seconds? August? Who's one artist you want to collab with but haven't yet? All right, so maybe like 2 years ago, right? Mau P. Okay, this is like probably right about when Drugs from Amsterdam came out, like maybe like the week it came out. And like, respectfully, no one knew who Mau P was. I sent him a message. I was like, yeah, really like what you're doing. We should collab. This is like me with like loads of followers and stuff. And then there's this new guy who I'd sent a message to. He read it, didn't reply. And I was like, all right, give him time. Months went by, he still never read it. I went on Capital Dance, did an interview, and they were like, oh, is there anyone you want to collab with? And I was like, yeah, Mau P, you need to reply to my DM. Still didn't reply. Right, it's now been like 2 years, and he's actually like quite famous now. Anyway, he still hasn't replied. Or maybe he has and I haven't seen it. But anyway, yeah, that would be a good one. If you could play a set anywhere you want, where would you play it? I think the key thing with this is doing it somewhere where we can have loads of people without getting in trouble with the police, like central London or something. That'd be crazy. But we could never do something like that because the police would just, I don't know what they'd do, but it would be chaos. So yeah, the middle of a big city, like the center of London or the center of New York. And I don't mean in like a park. I mean in like the most built up area possible. Kind of like that guy who carries the DJ controller around his neck. Kind of like him, but like with a whole 4-deck setup, 5-deck setup, and some proper speakers and stuff. Outside of music and Tita, what brings you the most joy in life? I really like sunsets. I mean, it's a really random one, but like, it absolutely fascinates me how sometimes we're all just there like looking at the sun and we're like, whoa. And it's like humans, we've built all these like huge, like we built the Burj Khalifa, you know? We sent men to space. Like, we've done all this wild shit, like all the art and everything. But like when the sun goes down, we're like, whoa. And it does it every day, and it always has. And like, why is it so sick? I don't know. And then like ocean as well. Like, I rented this apartment in Miami once, and it was like North Beach, and you could just see ocean all around, and that fucking fascinates me. Like, I don't even know why. I just love it. What is your all-time favorite track or remix? Hey James, who's your favorite child? I'll just give you one of. Just keep it simple. Michael Jackson, The Way You Make Me Feel. How many hours was your longest set? So the longest set I did was 8 hours at Space Miami. I've played at Space Miami 3 times now, and the first time I ever did it, I was kind of scared because I wasn't familiar with these really long sets. Once I got really into it, I totally understood what it was all about, and I realized that by the end of the night, you feel like you're on a night out with all these like crazy people on the dance floor, and you're just like best mates with them, and it's like you're all just partying together. It's amazing. So thank you for being a part of this channel, which officially has more than 1 million subscribers. I think I can actually call myself a YouTuber now. I never was a YouTuber, but I've always wished I was a YouTuber, so now I'm a YouTuber. Am I a YouTuber first or a DJ first? I think I'm a DJ first, then a producer, then a YouTuber. Thank you for being a part of this channel. Who does this? Also join the Discord so that next time we do a Q&A, you can be a part of it. Transition.